Will you be remembered after you're dead? The Z-List Deadlist podcast about obscure people from history with me, Izzy Lawrence. Hello and welcome to 2018. Yes, you made it, you're here. Not everybody did make it. Unfortunately, my poor old gran did not make it to 2018. I'm really excited though, because I did actually manage to get some recordings of her before she passed away. And she had quite an interesting little war. So I'm hoping, if you know anybody, just out there listeners, if you know anybody who knows a bit about Second World War, and particularly about Americans and friendly fire just before D-Day, I'll be interested in interviewing you. So let me know. Anyway, you can write to throwsticks@izzy.com. Talking of, please do subscribe to email lists. That would be awesome. Just go to izzy.com is the easiest one. iszi.com. For those of you who haven't already noticed, the zlistdeadlist.com website has changed. It just takes you to the podcast. It's going to be izzy.com, which is going to have all the blogs and everything else. You can still donate to the podcast from there. And please do, because actually people have been, and it's kind of inspired me to really go for it and produce more episodes, because as you notice, this is starting at the beginning of the month, and that's a bit unusual for me. Normally I go for the end of the month. Well, hopefully, she says, we're going to stick to a schedule and we're going to try and get an episode out, a short one like this one, a bit more casual, have an episode out on the Monday, which will be the second Monday of the month, and then go for the third Thursday of the month for the actual big Z-List Deadlist episode, which this month should be, if all goes to plan, Lucy Porter. Yeah. But today is a big name drop. Today is a clang. What was that? Clang. It's Paul Sinha. Dr. Paul Sinha, I believe. You know him as a comedian. You know him on the TV as... Now, is he one of the eggheads or is he one of the other ones? I don't know the difference between all the different shows. I don't have a television. But he's all over the TV being clever. And he was all over the British Museum being clever. Thank you very much to the British Museum for allowing me to record the show in your beautiful BP Lecture Theatre. For those interested, there is another Z-List Deadlist coming in March. So if you're a member of the British Museum, listen out for that. It should be on the British Museum website probably next month. The tickets go on sale. But the lineup for that is particularly exciting. One thing I'm going to do is tell you about some other podcasts that you might want to listen to. And not just Seti Sopo, where Simon and I discuss the opposite of things that don't have a natural opposite, or indeed the British Museum member cast, which I think the latest episode is all about Egyptian art, or indeed Women's Fitness Podcast, where Kelly and I break down our New Year's resolutions for you and how to keep fit. None of that. No, what I thought I would do is give the opportunity to some other podcasts with hopefully some other guests that you will have heard on the Z-List Deadlist to tell you about theirs. So here is Simon Watt.
If you could redesign the human body, what would you do? On the Level Up Human podcast, we ask experts and our audience how they would change our species, and let our comedian judges decide what upgrades to slot into our DNA. Our guests have included experts like Alice Roberts, Marcus de Sotoy and Dean Burnett, and comedians Zoe Lyons, Hugh Dennis and Paul Sinha. Level Up Human, the science comedy panel show souping up the Homo sapien.
What was I saying? Yeah, so this episode is Paul Sinha talking about strong women from history. I like strong women in history. I like strong women who are alive today. My gran was quite a strong woman. Yeah, and I do take inspiration from women in history. Everybody who heard the old Z-List Deadlist episode of Mice and Policemen, which I'll link to in the show notes, I interviewed Naomi Paxton for that. And she told me all about jiu-jitsu suffragettes, which is pretty sweet. The fact that women used to go around beating up policemen. In fact, it's so sweet that on Radio 4 on Tuesday, that's Tuesday the 9th of January, I'll be on Making History interviewing Naomi, basically doing the podcast episode again, but shh, it's fine. It's all in the dojo that I actually attend, because I am a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. That's what history does for you. It changes your life. Let it change your life. Maybe you can be halfway to a Dan like I am. I know Dan is a black belt, by the way. I don't know why they call it Dan. Probably because the first guy was called Dan. Or, might have been Terry, halfway to a Terry. That sounds more like where I'm going to end up. I'm not very good. However, I do enjoy beating people up, and I also like the fact that I'm carrying on a tradition of feminism in a way. Because the suffragettes are pretty cool. In the British Museum, they've got a coin which they've sabotaged called Votes for Women, and they've just basically put votes for women, they just stamped it on. It's pretty sweet. And also at the same time, right, that, between 1920s, maybe 19-teens, I don't know the date exactly, but there's a fun fact for you. Women, that's us, we were banned from the British Museum. Yeah, because we were dangerous. We're too dangerous to let in. That's right. We were the Muslims of our day. Yeah. But yeah, in order to get in the British Museum, if you're a lady, right, you had to get a note from a man or be accompanied by a trustworthy gentleman. You wouldn't be allowed in on your own because you're too much of a liability, yeah? We're just too deadly. We were smashing stuff up and protesting quite a lot. Women's so dangerous. Not anymore. We're not considered dangerous no more. Sad, innit? But I tell you who really was dangerous, and that is the woman that Paul Sinha is about to talk about. So, buckle up. Like I say, this is a short episode. You're just going to hear his performance at the British Museum and enjoy that, and I will see you after he has spoken.
Hello, good evening. It's a genuine honour and privilege to live a dream and be here at the British Museum in what can only be described as a great era to announce my Z-list, dead-list, because the person I'm nominating is very much an icon of female empowerment. And what a golden era we're in for female empowerment. We've now got women in all the big positions in the country. Prime Minister, First Minister of Scotland, and Dictionary Corner and Desert Island Discs. The big four. Theresa May, the second female Prime Minister of the UK, and the first human female Prime Minister of the UK. And not only that, perhaps even bigger than Theresa May's story is the Spice Girls reunion. There is no more iconic symbol of female empowerment. 1996, they came in and taught us about girl power. And before that happened, we had no idea that women could do anything. Women were perfectly content to be scientists or politicians or business leaders or astronauts. And now the Spice Girls taught them that they could be a lot more than that if they just had a bit of zig-a-zig-ha. And it is that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that I introduce my nomination for Z-list, dead-list. From the 6th century BC, a little-known woman called Tomyris. Your silence encourages me. Tomyris, if you didn't know, was queen of a nomadic tribe called the Massagetai from the steppes of Central Asia, which is a mountain range rather than a tribute band. Little is known about the Massagetai, except for their rather unusual culture, that when the male tribesmen got elderly, they were sacrificed and eaten. That might sound brutal by today's standards, but Jeremy Hunter just retained his job as Health Secretary. So don't be surprised if these cost-saving measures for the elderly soon find their way into British culture. Now, little is known about the life of Tomyris, other than the incident that absolutely made her name. What gives me great pleasure is that the incident it basically involves somebody who's not just synonymous, but eponymous with one of the major exhibits of this fine establishment at the British Museum. In room 51, give us a cheer if you've seen it, the Cyrus Cylinder. Wow, I thought there'd be a little bit more enthusiasm for the Cyrus Cylinder. It's one of the big ones. It's one of the 5 main reasons why kids come to the British Museum. They recently did a poll, and kids identified 5 main reasons they come to the British Museum. In 4th place, the Rosetta Stone. In 3rd place, the Elgin Marbles. In 2nd place, the mummies. And in 1st place, their school forced them to. And in 5th place is the Cyrus Cylinder. If you haven't seen it, it's the one that looks like a giant corn on the cob. It's from the mid-6th century, and it is a clay cylinder containing Akkadian Sumerian script. And on it is an awful lot of stuff. There has been some sort of controversy about exactly what's on it. I mean, a lot of people, late Shah of Iran, too soon. Late Shah of Iran, who died in 1979, said that it was the first ever human rights document in history. There are some human rights issues on there, but mostly it's a series of boasts in which Cyrus the Great tells everybody what he's achieved, what he sets out to achieve. It's essentially a bit like an Akkadian 6th century BC version of an opening salvo from a hip-hop battle. In it, he describes himself as the King of Kings, the King of Persia, the King of Anshan, the King of Media, the King of Babylon, the King of Sumer and Akkad, and the King of the 4 corners of the world. Well, little did he know that you really hadn't seen much of the world. You can't call yourself the king of the four corners of the world until you conquered Norwich. But nonetheless, he was a man who has something of an ego on him, but he had every reason to have an ego on him. He's the only man, only Gentile in the Jewish Bible described as a Messiah. Nobel Peace Prize laureate Shirin Ebadi, an Iranian dissident, in 2003, opened her acceptance speech by saying, "I am a descendant of Cyrus the Great." There were reasons he was called the Great. He was a good man, fundamentally, Cyrus the Great. He believed in respecting the honours and belief systems of all the people that he conquered. Problem is, for Cyrus the Great, that not everybody wants to be conquered. And so, in 530 BC, he met his nemesis, a woman called Tamaris. Having conquered all those places, Cyrus the Great should not have been as greedy as he was. But he turned up to the steppes of Central Asia, and he decided he wanted to conquer the Massagetae tribe. But not through force, but simply through marriage. So he sent a messenger over to the Massagetae. This was the days before Snapchat and WhatsApp and what that. He sent a messenger over to the Massagetae to ask for Tamaris' hand in marriage. Of course, she'd say yes. Of course she would say yes. Why wouldn't she say yes? He was, at the time, the most powerful man the world had ever known. If that's good enough for Jerry Hall, it would surely be good enough for Tamaris. But she had her standards. Didn't really fancy him. Wasn't her type. She wanted somebody a little bit more sensitive. She wanted cuddles and Countryfile, not violence and Top Gear. And would you believe it? The Queen Tamaris decided that she was perfectly within her rights to say no to the man who'd created the biggest empire, the Achaemenid Empire, that the world had ever seen. An empire that stretched from the Hellespont to the west, to the Indus Valley to the east. He was the most powerful man the world had ever known, and Tamaris said no. He was gutted. He'd really had his heart set on Tamaris. He'd seen the magazines, he'd seen the pictures. He'd had his heart set on Tamaris, and this was basically Cyrus the Great decided that he wanted to wage war, because that was the only way that he was going to conquer the Massagetae tribes. But you know what? He didn't really have enough men, because his men were spread all across the four corners of the world. So he had to come up with a cunning plan. And a cunning plan is exactly what he came up with. He sent a group of his least able and most expendable men to set up camp somewhere near the Massagetae tribe. Tamaris sent her son to lead troops in to see what was going on, and their son found these expendable men and slaughtered them. That doesn't sound very cunning. But what Cyrus the Great's men had left behind was food, proper food, vol au vents, that sort of thing, that sort of level, and wine. Absolutely tons of the stuff. Enough to knock out an entire army or 3 sitting MPs. The Massagetae tribe had never, ever drunk wine in their life. They were used to mare's milk. That was their drink of choice. Doesn't sound very nice. It's a step up from Blue Nun. But nonetheless, they fell into the trap. Tamaris' son, Spagapises, I'm only saying that to prove that I can remember a difficult name, Spagapises, they fell for the trap completely. Within 2 hours of drinking the wine, a couple of them were aggressively describing Roy Hodgson's limitations as an England manager, and another two had decided to set up a cafe in the morning, another had decided he was going to give up fighting and finally write his novel. But sadly, none of these dreams came to pass, because they got drunk and they fell comatose, and the plan was working perfectly. Because then Cyrus's less expendable men came and slaughtered many of the men, but kidnapped Tamaris' son, Spagapises, and sent Tamaris a message saying, "Let us conquer you, or your son dies." Well, the issue was rather taken from Tamaris' hands, because when Spagapises woke up from his drunken coma, he was so ashamed, he killed himself. I felt that shame. One night, I went out with my mates and got so drunk. The next morning when I woke up, there was an entirely new U2 album on my iPhone. I had no recollection of downloading whatsoever. We've all had this drunken shame thing going on. None of us have reacted quite as violently as Spagapises did. Well, you know the old proverb, hell hath no fury like a woman. Tamaris was devastated and furious and vowed revenge. It wasn't so much actually the violence she objected to as the duplicities. This was no longer Cyrus the Great. This was Cyrus the underhand, the duplicitous. And Tamaris, a little-known queen of a nomadic, horse-based people of Kazakhstan, decided that she was going to go into battle herself. She led her troops into a battle of revenge. The father of history, Herodotus himself, described the battle as the most violent ever fought on foreign lands. It was a massacre. We're talking Iceland, England here. We're talking a really one-sided massacre. Tamaris and her troops had more passion and intensity than Cyrus the Great's troops could ever hope to muster. And Cyrus the Great, the most powerful man that history had ever seen, his troops were massacred in their entirety. This wasn't enough for Tamaris. She'd lost her brother after all. She'd vowed a bloody revenge, and a bloody revenge is exactly what she got. She ordered Cyrus the Great's body to be brought to her, and she had him beheaded. And then she dunked his head in a vat of blood. Who doesn't have a vat of blood lying around? And ceremonially drank the blood out of his head. You don't believe me? This has been a common theme of Renaissance paintings of the 16th and 17th century. Look up Tamaris and Cyrus when you get back home. But that wasn't more. She hadn't quite had enough. She then ordered for the head to be debrained and used as a drinking vessel at dinner parties for the rest of her life. By any standards, this is a social faux pas. I can only imagine that Julian Fellows would be disgusted, I really do. But that is what you call a proper and complete victory. And that is why I nominate the still little-known Massagetae tribal queen called Tamaris. Because she is perhaps the first person to basically conquer a person in power by not using her heart, but using sheer ferocity. There is a butterfly named after Tamaris. I wouldn't go near that one in a million years. Tamaris conquered the man who gave us the Cyrus cylinder, the man who'd created the largest empire ever known, defeated in battle by a woman. Nobody knows about her. I don't really know why, because she's basically fantastic. She's a proper female icon, and not one that marries a footballer for his money. That is why I nominate Tamaris, because fundamentally she proved that even in the 6th century BC, there are ways of brutally displaying the basic value that no definitely means no. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was good. Oh, and she was good. Well, she wasn't that good. She was conniving and clever and full of vengeance, like Olga of Kiev. So you should definitely go and try and see Paul. He is on tour at the moment, and I am just going to get the email I got from him saying, can you please mention these dates, Izzy, because they're the best ones, and they're like the best shows, and your audience are going to love coming to them. And I'm like, of course they're going to come. Right, so, oh yeah, oh, and it even says, because he says on here, it's the chase. He's on the chase, it's not Eggheads, it's the chase. Shut up, Izzy, I'm really cool. If you're in London, go see him at the Leicester Square Theatre in March. That's the 17th and the 16th of March. If you're in Mould, go see him on the 22nd. But if you're in London on the 22nd, there might be a show at the British Museum you'd rather favour. Also, he's going to be at the Lead Mill in Sheffield in April. That is April the 26th. But you can check all of his dates on his website. So, seriously, go see him. He's brilliantly funny. So, yeah, I don't know what you think of this episode. It's a bit casual. It's a bit more, it's just me chatting in a microphone, bit of audio about history. I hope in future little short episodes we're going to have maybe me telling you a bit more history like myself that I've actually researched, and maybe other little clips and stuff. Maybe you're going to hear my gran talking. That'd be weird. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely start to the year. Do check out iszi.com. That is iszi.com. And please, if you haven't yet, please can you just like and subscribe to everything that you see and leave us a reviews? Just leave us a review on iTunes. If you want to do me a favour, you don't want to donate via PayPal, go on to Facebook, find the Z-List Deadlist page, like everything, share everything, and just be a friend, man. And also, if anybody's got any things that they really want to hear, or any tips and advice, or, you know, whatever they want, give me some feedback. Email deadlist@hotmail.co.uk or throwsticks@iszi.com. Yeah, that'd be good. Oh, what a lot of information. Right, I am going to go drink myself a nice cup of tea out of a dead man's skull.